Welcome to Your Unapologetic Life, the podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Barkus, also your body image coach and guide on this journey towards self love and authenticity. I help career driven, successful women learn to love their bodies, ditch the self loathing, the guilt, the unworthiness, so that they can feel free, confident, and sexy. Together, we'll explore powerful stories and practical tools to help you embrace your true self and cultivate confidence. Let's get this party started. Let's talk archetypes, psychological archetypes in particular. Carl Jung, have you heard of him? He's one of the founding fathers in psychology. I got my undergraduate degree in psychology, and interesting, absolutely. I sat in class and learned about different psychotherapists and their theories. Of course, there's Freud. Carl Jung is a big one. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're familiar with that one. The only not great thing about getting an undergraduate degree in psychology is that you can't just go out and get a job after that. You have to go on and to get a graduate degree, whether it's a master's. I did choose that route, master's in marriage and family therapy, or a PsyD or PhD. And I thought that was interesting because I had a room. I stayed in a dorm. It was the only dorm on campus that had single rooms. I didn't want to share a room with anyone. I had a brother and we didn't share rooms. And I'm already just a introverted extrovert. Like I really enjoy being with people. And then I need a lot of private time to decompress and recharge. And so I knew that about myself even at that age, so I chose to do the single dorm room, and the gal next to me, fantastic. I was gonna say roomy, but not quite. But anyway, she had the dorm room next to me, and she got her 4-year degree in nursing. And she, right out of college, got a fantastic job in Huntington Beach, California, from little old St. Peter, Minnesota. And I thought, wow, how come I didn't get a practical degree? But I guess that's not the way psychology is set up in terms of higher education. You have to go on and get another degree to learn the actual um, therapy skills, not just the theories. All that to say, Carl Jung. All right. So Carl Jung, he basically outlined some psychological archetypes, and there is also pop culture, right? So pop psychology identifies other archetypes. And the two that I'm going to talk about are Little Miss Perfect archetype and the Queen archetype. And I also want you to keep in mind, can you change these archetypes? Because yes, they're pretty ingrained and they can be malleable with effort, right? They can be strengthened with effort. Little Miss Perfect. Now, a lot of women are raised, or society kind of indoctrinates us to be Little Miss Perfect, right? We as the archetype states, there is an element of perfectionism. We're basically presenting as flawless and we're perfect, and we have this facade of being super accomplished and socially adept. And underneath that can be insecurities and struggles that we don't share with other people. We have a really hard time being vulnerable. And I used to be that gal. I shared on another podcast episode the story about when I didn't want anyone to see me cry, even as a kindergartner. I just always wanted to come across as tough and resilient, and for some reason, just unable to show that I ever wasn't perfect. I used to, one of my less um, desirable characteristics that I did change because I noticed it in myself when I would make a mistake or I would do something that wasn't probably the best choice. And if someone called me out on it, I would somehow make an excuse or turn it around so it wasn't my fault or I didn't do anything wrong. I just had a really hard time saying, you know what? You're absolutely right. I made that choice. It wasn't a great choice. I screwed up. what's next. I diverted that or avoided that, like I said, and would try to get away from that and act like I was perfect. I couldn't have possibly made a mistake. And I recognized that in myself and I stopped doing that. And there's a lot more to the Little Miss Perfect archetype that can be difficult because perfect is really hard to keep up. And it also prevents you from being authentic because now you're always pretending that you're something you're not. And it can be exhausting rather than the queen archetype. Now, the queen, she is representing the feminine, the female energy. She is representing leadership and loyalty, sovereignty. She's a natural leader. She's calm, she's collected, and she's confident. I honestly never even heard of the queen archetype until I started reading Gina DeVee's book called The Audacity to Be Queen: The Unapologetic Art of Dreaming Big and Manifesting Your Most Fabulous Life. Now, Gina DeVee is actually someone I've followed for well over a decade. She's one of my online mentors. I followed her and Marie Forleo when it came to shining examples of women who had created businesses serving women, online coaching, geographic independence, and just a really happy, powerful life and a purposeful life, I would say. I mean, I'm sure they're happy and everyone has their moments, and truly just powerful and for the greater good, and really focused on building other women up, which I absolutely love. Anyway, I also like about Gina is she's from Michigan and from humble beginnings. And I just the way she speaks. So if you aren't familiar with Gina DeVee, it's DEVEE. She has a podcast. She's got the book, The Audacity to Be Queen. And she's also pretty prominent on social media. So if you don't know of her, check her out. And especially if you're looking for female mentors that really focus on building other women up. And again, this queen archetype, I didn't even know what that meant. She talks about femininity and masculinity, and that masculine energy is very giving, and women do give, give, give. We have a tendency to give so much we forget about ourselves instead of remembering to be in our feminine energy and also remember to receive. And just talking about being a leader and admitting that you don't have everything right. And it's a wonderful book. I would definitely check it out. The Audacity to Be Queen. And I wanted to mention because then I thought, okay, great. So what if you're basically running the show off of this Little Miss Perfect archetype? How do you change? Is it changeable, or is this like a personality that you just have? And Carl Jung said, absolutely. Like, you can change, and it is going to take actively working on it, just like it would if you wanted to eat healthier or work out more or think more positively. You have to actively work on those things, practice those things. And he mentioned specifically practicing self awareness. So catch yourself when you're being Little Miss Perfect and think, what would a queen do right now? That's what Gina says all the time. What would a queen think? What would she say? What would she do? And intentionally cultivate the behaviors and perspectives associated with the archetype that you want to strengthen. So if we have a tendency toward all the archetypes and we're stronger in one archetype than another, that doesn't mean that it's stuck. We're never stuck. Think about the podcast I did with Jess Sargis. She talked about the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. If you are in the fixed mindset, you just think that's your fate. There's nothing you can do. It's always going to be like this. Why even try? Versus a growth mindset and think, what do I have to learn here? What are other people doing that are in the positions I want to be in, or they're in the place and space that I want to be in. What are they doing? And so there's always room to grow, and there's room to change, and it does take your active participation. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Your Unapologetic Life. If you're ready to break free from self-judgment, step into your power, and live unapologetically, hit that subscribe button and join me on this transformative journey. If you're feeling generous, please share this episode with a woman that you care about. And don't forget, if you'd like to discover where you stand on your self-love journey, I have a self-love scorecard, assessing your body confidence. It's free, and you can DM me on Instagram or Facebook with the word assessment. You can also visit morganbarkus.com, enter your email address, and I will send you that free self-love scorecard assessment. Until next time, embrace your true self.